We deal with it later. It would be in another half an hour, I don't know. But right now, take out the mashbiach. I think you'll have to look. I forgot. I had two other copies. I forgot to bring them. But I wrote it into my Gemara. Maybe you can look in together if you can take it to see. Okay, I want to first go through the Gemara without the mashbiach, and then go with the mashbiach. So we're on Daf Beis and Beis. We're on Beis and Beis at where it says Maushi Yilku al Chalosin de Dvar Torah, which is approximately halfway down the page. Yeah, it's less than half. There's a little dot, 2 words from the end line, about 10 lines down. Right, Maushi Yoku. Okay, Maushi Yoku Chalosin Dvar Torah. I'm going to read the way the Gemara reads, and then I'm going to tell you the mashbiach. Maushi Yoku Dvar Torah. If you mix together a whole bunch of doughs, one made of wheat, and one made of barley, one made of rye, spelt, and oats, you mix them all together. And then he took challah off of it. And then a yuzar, a non-Kohen, ate the challah. Does he get flogged on that challah? Rabbi Yonah b'shem Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi Baravo b'shem Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish said, "Ein loikin al chalosin dvar Torah." On this challah, there's no flogging d'oraisa. Why is that? Rabbi Yaakov Baracha said, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish kedaite. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish is like he holds elsewhere. The spalgun. We have a machlokas. Now this machlokas, the mashbiach points out, is not to be found anywhere else in Shas. Nowhere. Not Bavli, not Yerushalmi. As a matter of fact, he says, interesting thing, he says that, at the time the mashbiach came out, there was this whole controversy about the Yerushalmi and Kochim. There was a Yerushalmi and Kochim which came out, which was later proved to be a forgery. It's an excellent topic written on the excellent essay written on the topic in an Or Shmuel a number of years ago by guess who. So on this Yerushalmi and Kochim, there was a lot of new material coming out, most of it forged. What was not forged was copied from elsewhere, cleverly and changed. But the Mashbiach writes, if such a machlokas would be found in the Yerushalmi and Kochim, it would be a shtickle raya that it's a real Yerushalmi. Because this machlokas should be found in Yerushalmi and Kochim. It's not in the Bavli, so maybe it would be in the Yerushalmi. What's this machlokas? On Rabbi Yaakov bar Achor, Shimon Lakish kedaite. Shimon Lakish is like it's not reason to spell with that machlokas. Hapigul v'anoiser sheshochan. Pigul and noiser, which you ground and combined. You had a pigul and noiser burger. Givaldik, right? So you had a pigul and noiser burger. Rabbi Yechanan Amar lo bitlu zezah. They don't cancel each other. So how many malchus do you get? 2, right? Pigul and noiser. Shimon Lakish are bitlu zezah. They cancel each other out, which is difficult, right? How should they cancel each other? Nothing. Garnished, right? Rabbi Yisrael says, so we here to the same thing. If you combine together all the doughs from all the different types, so you're not going to get any flogging on it. Everything is hunky dory. Rabbi Yisrael says, "Lo dami, they're not comparable." Tamon over there. Now we know Yerushalmi over there can mean over here or over there. So the conventional way of learning is to say here it means taka over there. Over there by Pigul and Noisar. Omar Zev Zeh Osir. There, each one is Osir, and the Isurim cancel each other out. In other words, each Isur is a clash with the other Isur. Nosar and Pigul are not the same. They clash with each other, and since neither of them is a Rove, so therefore by Rove, when one is majority, so the Rove cancels the Miut. Where it's Mechza, so each one clashes, and they, as a result, you can't be over on either one, right? It was Rove, what? Right. Right. So if it was Rove, you transgress on the Rove. But here, since neither of them is Rove, it's exactly half Pigul and half Noiser, so you don't get anything according to Rish Lakish. But here, Shnei Dvarim Rabim Al Echon Mevatlino. So here, there are 5 types of dough, right? So each two types cancels the other one out, right? In other words, you can make 4 on 1 each time, right? So the 4 on 1, each of the 4 cancels 1 in turn. So therefore, I consider it to be one conglomerate entity of the 4, and the 4 are not identified, because I would play round robin here. Sometimes it's this 4, sometimes another 4, another 4, another 4, another 4, all possible configurations. In the final analysis, though, what we say is it becomes one big mush, and that's the critical factor here. By Pigul and Nosar, they don't become a mush, because they're 50-50. So it can become Pigul Nosar burger, right? Posar can become Posar burger, right? But here, so we could become wheat, 7th grade, right? 7th grade bread, 5th grade bread. That's what it becomes. That's what he's saying, exactly.
So that would be
Rish Lakish. Avadi get Malchus. According to Rabbi Yochanan, you definitely get Malchus over here, because he holds even by people in Nosar you get Malchus, right? Oh no, exactly the opposite. Right, the opposite would be true. According to Yochanan, it would be the exact opposite. That if Rabbi Yochanan holds over there, they're bottling each other. Or it wouldn't be the exact opposite. We don't know what Rabbi Yochanan would hold. I don't know what Rabbi Yochanan would hold. There he holds their bottle. You get both, right? Oh wait,
Like said that by here there is no by here
yeah.
There is no office because
No, but we refuted that. No, I got it clear now. Rish Lakish, we refuted that. We said we wanted to say Rish Lakish holds like a sheet over there, which is that Pigul and Nosar cancel each other out. We said it's not comparable. Over there it's 1 on 1, but here it's 4 on 1. So over here, if Rish Lakish was consistent, he might well say in our case that you do get Malchus, because there is cancellation here. And what does cancellation mean? Becomes the 5 grain bread. 1 Malchus, just 1. They all mush together. It's a mush. Now Rabbi Yochanan would hold the exact opposite. Rabbi Yochanan there says you get 2 Malchus, Pigul and Nosar, right? So that means you don't mush together, right? So the extension by us, what would he say? Potter. No. Each one didn't have a shiur. It only becomes a shiur if you have all 5 together. That's what it means to say. Okay? Only becomes a shiur if you have 5 together. So Shlakish, you get Malchus. Rabbi Yochanan, you don't get Malchus. Okay? Because Shlakish holds of mushing, and therefore over here of Rish Lakish holds. No. Rish Lakish holds over there that that you have mushing. That's why they cancel each other out. Whereas over here, that would be mushing would give precise to be a reason to be mechayev you. Again, Rish Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan holds they don't mush. Each remains separate. So therefore, here, all by extension, each remains separate, and you'd be potter, exempt, because you never got a shiur together. It never coalesced. Whereas over there, according to Rish Lakish, over there, they cancel each other out because they become a mush, right? And so the mush cancels them out. So therefore, over here, they would also mush together, which makes it 5 grain bread and makes you chayev. Yeah. What? No shiur. No, each one is shiur. Right. Each one is shiur. Okay? No, because you go in turn. It's a round robin, right. Right, no, you wouldn't say that. That's right. Okay?
Therefore, you were saying there is bittul.
Exactly, but it makes sense. It's consistent. It is consistent. Because over there you can't say bittul. Why? Because they're only. No.
Cancel each other out.
Cancel each other out. Right. They say they cancel each other out, right? That means they mush each other out. Mush. Whereas here, the mushing creates one conglomerate entity of grain. He explained it very well, Mr. Zuger. 5 grain bread. And therefore you're going to be chayiv over here, Malchus. So precisely what made it over there canceled, here is going to make you chayiv. Bear in mind why that is. Because over there you need a kazayis of Isser. There's no kazayis of Isser, right? The Isurim canceled. But here you need a kazayis of grain. The kazayis of grain does exist. Okay? So that's the difference. Okay? Believe me, it took me hours. Now, says no, that's not why you should believe me. Just expressing some exasperation. Sorry. Now, kvar bitlu ad shelo nasa iser. And here they're already batel before they became. And this is a continuation. It's not. I stopped arbitrarily, kind of in the middle of a sentence. What it means is here they're already batel before they become instant, meaning they become a mush. Before you set aside the challah is now challah in the entire mush on the 5 grain bread. It's very good, right? It can be chayiv. Ilu, you know what case would have been comparable? What would have been a comparable case to Reish Lakish's case over there? Ilu echad asa. Do you have echad or amar? Okay. Ilu echad asa chamesh isyos, if a person made 5 doughs, mechamisha, meaning from 5 different grains, the irvat, and then put it together. So in other words, each one had a shiur challah by itself. If you had each one have a shiur challah by itself, and on that Reish Lakish said, and then he put them together after each one had a shiur challah, and on that Reish Lakish said, ain't liking a chalos and dvar Torah, and on that Reish Lakish said, you would not be like it. That's Yos. That would be comparable to that case over there. Because in that case over there, Reish Lakish says, what? That you had a shiur of Pigul and Nosar, and they canceled each other out, right? So if you wanted to make it completely comparable to that, you'd have to have a case over here also, where each grain had a shiur of challah, and then putting together cancel each other out. But that's not the case we're talking about over here. We're talking about a case where they only received their shiur of challah. How? By the very combination of all the ingredients. Then, before they became chayiv and challah, they mushed together. They became 5 grain bread. That's why here it's possible that the combining will b'dafka bring out a chiyuv challah. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, it really doesn't, but I made it seem like it makes sense. Okay? That's the gift of a good Maggid shiur. To make things which don't really make sense, you like they make sense. Okay, now, says the Mashbiach. Now, the thing is, he brings down, you know what, I really should look this up because I didn't look it up to today. He brings down that it is a machlokas in Zvachim, Rabbi Yochanan, Reish Lakish, and the Mashbiach says we didn't find any such machlokas in the Bavli. So let me just look quickly, see if it's Taka brought down the Bavli such a machlokas. Okay, the Mashbiach is right. This is not a Bavli. I don't know why he says Maitzile Bavli Zvachim. It's not a Bavli. The Mashbiach says all we have in the Bavli in Zvachim Davayin Chesem Alfez. The Reish Lakish says Hapigu v'anosar ve'atomei. 3 together, not 2, not Pigul off saying Nosar. These 3 shabolon zeh b'zeh, och v'ochlon patur, and he is patur, which makes sense.
You can extrapolate.
No, because there you have 2 on 1. Each Isser is batel and the 2 other Isurim, and that's a Reish Lakish holds. And Rabbi Yochanan doesn't argue on that. There's just a statement of Reish Lakish in and of itself. Okay, so there makes sense because to have what Reish Lakish is saying here, people know so cancel each other out. It's a funny thing. What's canceling? Rabbi Yochanan should be correct, but Reish Lakish makes sense. It's only about 3 because then each 2 cancels the other one in turn. Okay, and that's why the Mashbiach changes the girsa here. So let's see the Mashbiach inside. From Maushi Yoke. Okay,
Now the Mashbiach's own comments are on the brackets. Same thing, you put together 5 grains, none of them had a shiur by themselves. Now you want to you combine them all together. He has michamish or mishnei. I don't know. Shtei minim. All right, the same idea. If you put 2 types together in lokin dvar Torah, do you get malchus midaraisa or not? Rabbi Yehuda b'shem Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi b'shem Rabbi Yehuda b'shem Rish Lakish ain't lokin achlos in dvar Torah. You don't. Dein mitzdarefes el midrabanan. Says the Mashbiach, they only join together midrabanan. Rabbi Yaakov Barach said, Reish Lakish kedaite. This is Reish Lakish according to his line of reasoning. Do'amaru said, Hapigu v'anoisar v'hatamei. All 3, Kain Tzarech Lomar Kabavli. That says Mashbiach, it should say like the Bavli. Sheshoch, on which you ground together, beat luzeh. It says to eat a Pigul Noisar Tamei burger. All 3. You don't get Malkus. The Leko Plukta B'zeh, says the Mashbiach. There's no argument about that. Rabbi Yochanan doesn't argue on that. So here too, if you join all 3 together, so they cancel each other out. That's what the Havamin is. Or 5 together. Each one cancels the other in turn. Rabbi Yossi said, V'lo damion, they're not comparable. Tamon zev is their osur. There, each one is osur. Klomar, meaning, says the Mashbiach, Hein rak, what? Hell, Klomar, b'isos, in the doughs, Hein rak shnayim achayovim b'chala. There are only 2 which are chayev in challah. Zelo chodosh, says Mashbiach, this is not a new thing. Asher tevas tamon kai alocha. That tamon very often goes on here, right? So here he says there are 2, and again, I don't think we're taking 2 specifically. I think 5 is the same thing. They're all chayev in challah. They're all comparable. Barley, wheat, spelt, rye, oats. They're all the same. What's their nature? They're chayiv and challah. There's no difference between the 2, right? Between the 5, right? Beram, however, going further in the Gemara, says Mashbiach, hacha pigul v'noisav v'tamei. Or here, meaning there, by pigul noser and tamei, shnei dvorim rabbi malechot. The 2 things are different than the 3rd, and they overwhelm the 3rd, and they cancel it. Ukfar bitl leisa achat, says the Mashbiach. I'm taking out the words ukfar bitl, which appear in our Gemara. Damin hamagia, tehemin humin hamagia. They are from some amender of the text. Sheshaver the kai taman alosam, who thought that there means here. Ilu, now it should be ilu echot. Omar is a typo. Ilu echot also chamesh isos mi chamesh minim. If one were to make 5 doughs from 5 different types, v'irvan, mix them together, v'amrei shlokish ein loikin a chaloson, they don't get malchus on the chala dvar Torah midaraisa yos, then that would have been comparable. Klomar, meaning does a kedaiti, then maybe we could say like he says over there, kumo apigul van noisa v'tamei dekan rabu v'kan rabu. But that in both cases they're overwhelmed. Now this, till now, I'm all very good in the Mashbiach. I don't like his last 5 words here, the next 5 words. Avo lo kenam Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish didn't say that. The rak bebeis isos ve'eno kedaiti. It's only going by shtei isos, by 2 doughs, and not like over there. Those Mashbiach, in order to say his pshat, felt that the Gemara specifically can be taught, is only talking about where it's doughs of 2 types. Of barley and of wheat, or of wheat and of spelt, or of spelt and of oats. And then I say that they join together. But not where they're 3, because if they're 3, each one would cancel the other out, right? And that would make like the Pigul Noser Tami. I don't think the Mashbiach had to learn like that. I think you can learn even if they're 5. Because ultimately there's a basic difference in lomdus. There, what do I say about Pigul Noser and Tameh? Those are all contradictory prohibitions. So therefore they each cancel each other out. But here, no matter how many grains are thrown together, It doesn't matter. They all have the same basic quality. What's the same basic quality? They're all chayiv and challah, so they can join together. When the Gemara is ending up, what led the Mashbiach to say that is the Gemara's grand finale. The Gemara ends up with this: if Reish Lakish were to say like this, then this would agree with his position over there. But I think all the Gemara is saying at that point is that were Reish Lakish taka to have held they were comparable, then he would have said that in 3 or 4 or 5 types of grain thrown together, those 2 or 3 or 4 cancel the other one, and that in turn each one is patur. But of course, Reish Lakish would never have said such a thing because the cases are not comparable whatsoever. It's pashut that there's a very basic difference, and it's a pliya. It's an amazing thing that you can compare the two. That's what the Gemara is saying. You wanted to say, now let me make something clear. Ultimately, Reish Lakish said you don't get malchus d'oraisa. Reish Lakish did say, according to no matter what gears you say in the Gemara, Reish Lakish started by saying you don't get malchus d'oraisa. The Gemara, what happened then is the Gemara said, I understand that because that's based in the Shita by Pigul and Nosar, or according to the Mashbiach by Pigul, Nosar and Tameh. Then the Gemara comes back and says, no, I don't know what Reish Lakish's svara is over here, but it ain't the same svara we have over there. That's what the Gemara is saying. So the Gemara is ending up at saying, yes, true, Reish Lakish did exempt you for if you ate the challah from flogging. But it's not the same svara he had there in Zvach, it must be another kind of svara. Okay? That's true no matter what. The question is what the middle stages are. Okay, that's basically it in a nutshell. It's a type of Gemara which you have to chazer over many, many times until you get it straight. But again, one more time, just the structure. Shloka said he combined 5 different grains, 5 different doughs, grains, each of which doesn't have the shiur, proper shiur. They don't join together, and therefore the challah taken off of the 5 grain dough is not chayiv and challah. Says the Gemara, maybe we compare. Well, that's comparable to the case of where Reish Lakish, either according to our Girsa, said Pigul and Nosar which join together. Pigul and Nosar which are joined together. You're not chayiv malchus, right? So here you're not chayiv malchus. According to the Mashbiach, the case where Pigul, Nosar, and Tameh, you're not chayiv malchus. So you're not chayiv malchus. Says more, it's not comparable. It's not the same svara. It can't be the same. Says more according to our Girsa. What it means? Because over there, when you create the mush, right? When you create the mush, the Pigul Nosar, each one is an Isser, and therefore they cancel each other out, the 2 Isurim. But over here, there's not canceling out. On the contrary, it becomes 5 grain bread, and therefore it should be chayav. So it's amazing why Reish Lakish paters, right? According to the Mashbiach, it's not comparable because there 2 Isurim, about the 1 Isser, right? But here you don't have such a thing. Either because, like the Mashbiach is the whole time, it's only 2 grains. Only 2 grains which are joined together. So Avada, it's not mevatel each other, right? Even if you don't learn the way I quibbled with the Mashbiach, even if you have 5 grains, it's still not comparable because here the underlying nature of each grain is similar. Okay? So therefore it's not comparable. Then the Gemara says, what would have been comparable? Had Reish Lakish talking about a case where he had 5 doughs, each of which already had a shiur, and then you join them together, and now they're exempt from challah. Because of course that would be literally like the case over there, where Pigul, Nosar, and Tameh, each of which have a shiur, joined together, and you're exempt. Or according to the Girsa Hagamar, Pigul and Nosar joined together, and they had a shiur, and still you were exempt. But Reish Lakish never discussed such a case. Okay, that's all I can do, folks. Let's go further. Hillel HaZaken. Now this we all know. We would never realize it was connected to this Gemara. But this we all know. Hillel HaZaken are Kerch Shloshton Ke'achas. Hillel HaZaken Zechel mikdash ki Hillel, kach so Hillel is mancher beis hamikdash oya kayim. Harkarch Pesach matzah morav ochlan giyachad kayim ashnerma matzah morim yochlu. Oh, very bad thing Hillel did. Why was that bad? You're right. Each substance of mevatel is batel in the other two. So is he Mekayim any mitzvahs whatsoever according to our Gemara? Not a single mitzvah. He wasn't Mekayim not Pesach, not matzah, and not morah. Yeah. Right. That's true. Right. Yeah. It's not comparable because here it's talking about serving and talking about mitzvahs. But you understand what the Gemara's Havamina is. Oh, come on. Hillel. What did Hillel do?
Oh, we made the moral.
With what? And whatever. With how many things are in the sandwich?
What?
How many things are in the sandwich?
2 things.
Now, when Hillel did it, how many things are in the sandwich? Yeah, what else is in the sandwich? Can't have a corned beef sandwich without the corned beef.
Oh, with matzah?
Yes. No.
What?
The corned Pesach.
Oh, the corned beef.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So each two cancel out the other one according to our Gemara. Was he Mekayim any mitzvahs? None. That's what Gemara is saying. Okay? Hillel is talking about Shlosh Geachas. Rabbi Yochanan Chalukin al Hillel Zakin. Right? They argued Hillel here. Because they all hold now, they like the Mashbiach, the Gersh says it's very good. Because according to the Mashbiach, both Rish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan agree. Because Gemara Tzvachim doesn't bring down the Rabbi Yochanan, disagrees, right? Like our Gemara's Gersh, it's problematic, because Rabbi Yochanan did disagree there. He said the people and those are both coexist. It's a little bit difficult. But like the Mashbiach, both Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish argue on Hillel, right? Because they all hold Pesach, those are Pigul and Tomei. Shepol and Zemze, you mix them all together, they cancel each other out. So there's no Isser. So by mitzvahs say the same thing. They cancel each other out. Hillel did no mitzvahs. So the Gemara is going to say that. The Gemara is going to say that. The Gemara is going to say that at the end. But right now the Gemara still thinks mitzvahs are each other. So it says Rabbi Yochanan Kerch Matzah. Hi, Rabbi Yochanan had a seder, and he put Matzah Morah together, right? So it says Gemara Kam b'shas hamikdash, Kam b'shlo b'shas hamikdash. When there was a Beis Hamikdash, so it's no good because there were 3 minim, right? And then Rabbi Yochanan did it b'zman hazeh, and that Rabbi Yochanan took 2 minim together, right? And that's okay. And that even works out like our Gemara, right? Because our Gemara said that by Pigul and Otsar, Rabbi Yochanan agrees that they don't cancel each other out. So therefore, a morah matzah sandwich is okay. Okay? So it says the Gemara, you know what? You can even say that both talk about when there's a Beis Hamikdash. Shnei dvarim rabim al echad umevatlin also. 2 things. Well. I think take Amishas means Shnei dvarim rabim echad umevatlin also means Rabbi Yochanan, even the Beis Hamikdash existed. He also would only take 2 things. So don't say it's depends on whether there's a Beis Hamikdash or no Beis Hamikdash. Rather, what it means is whether you take 2 or 3 things. And he would always only take 2 things and not 3 things. That's it's kind of a glib thing. We're saying that, all right, even there was a Beis Hamikdash, as long as you only take 2 things, you're okay. It's not a condition on the time of the Beis Hamikdash or not time of the Beis Hamikdash, rather than whether it's 2 or 3 things.
So you would have the corned beef sandwich.
Right, here that corner says the corner beef, right. Rabbi Yossi, B'Shem Rabbi Lozer said, K'Shem Shem Yisurim Mevatlin Zeh Zeh Kachem Mitzvahs Mevatlin Zeh Zeh. Just like Yisurim don't cancel each other out, so too mitzvahs don't cancel each other out. So really, here it's not clear exactly whether this is like Rabbi Yochanan or not like Rabbi Yochanan. What? Like our Girsa works out like Rabbi Yochanan. That's right. Right. Well, the question's going to be like if it's like Reish Lakish. But the truth is, it sounds like it's definitely not like Reish Lakish, right? Because like Reish Lakish, Yisurim are mevatel each other. Yeah, so it would have to be going like Rabbi Yochanan. So maybe there's a raya against the Mashbiach. No. It's not right against Mashbiach. He would just argue on Rabbi Yochanan. You're arguing Rabbi Yochanan or Reish Lakish. What does Mashbiach say about this, Taka? Yeah, it doesn't say anything. Okay, fine. He held mitzvah same. He must have. It says Matzu Smor Michlu. It says Korban Beis should be on Matzah Mora. So to fulfill that directive, that's why he did it. Okay. Says more further. Rabbi Yeshua de Rumia. Top of Gimel and Alf. That's right. Rabbi Yeshua de Rumia. Rabbi Yeshua of the South Boy. He asked question. Also, Isa Mechamesh Zaminim. He made a dough from the 5 types. And there was no shiur in any one of them. No shiur in any one of them. Didn't have a shiur. And then he went and made 5 separate doughs, each one which had a shiur. Oh wait, each one which had a shiur? No, each one which was... One second. No, okay, right, all right. Let me do it over again. Rabbi Yosha de Rabbi Boy also Isa Mechamesh Zami. He made first the dough of all 5 types of grain. None of them had a shiur of challah. The chaz of also Chamesh Yisios Mimin Echad, and then he made another 5 separate grains, 5 separate doughs from each type of grain. Also, none of which had a shiur of challah. And then you mix them all together. So we did say chitim shabo ma'u shivatlu chitim shabo. Do we say does the wheat in it cancel the wheat in it? V'sorim shabo ma'u shivatlu sorim shabo, and the barley in it cancel the barley in it, which really in the Yerushalmi in the Bavli is called chazer v'niur. It's canceling is the wrong word here. What it means is does it resurrect? In other words, the wheat which is already there was not enough. The wheat which I put in is also not enough. But maybe together they make up a shiur. Okay? Maybe the fact that now I have enough wheat in combination is enough. Or enough barley, and so on and so forth.
Put it in 2 different forms.
No, they're put in the same form but in 2 different stages. Right. Okay? So says the Gemara, Rabbi Chia Barada, no, that can't work. Lokein Amar Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi, Shnei Dvarim Rabbi Amalechon, and Vatlin also. 2 things overwhelm the first one, and they cancel each other out. Meaning that essentially the first dough is a mush, and whatever status the mush has, which Reish Lakish said before, it doesn't have a chiv and challah d'oraisa. We never explained why Reish Lakish said what he said, because he said it's not comparable to the other case of Pigul Noser and Tomei. But we know Reish Lakish said it's not chayv and challah. So therefore, that's already canceled out because each one canceled each other out of that big one, right? And therefore, putting in the other ones now ain't going to make it any better. It's still going to become part and parcel of the mush, and mush is not chayv d'oraisa. No such thing as 5 grain bread d'oraisa.
Okay? So that's not going to work, right? Again, two things cancel one. In other words, that whole big mush is potter. So adding on to the mush and making major mush doesn't make you any difference. Except lo tzurcha da ella. I know it says the lo, but we all know that the lo in Yerushalmi is a contraction. This is not a question except in the following case. I'll give you the case in which you can ask the question. Asa chamesh isiya ismi chamesh in the same case. Started with five grain bread. None of it was the shiur, right? Not enough of a shiur from each one. That's exempt. Rish Lakish Reitos is exempt. The chazer v'asa chamesh isiyos michamisha. And then he made another 5 separate, the low earphone, but he didn't mix them together. Rather, he put it next to each other. Chitim shochein, the neighboring wheat, ma'u shivat lu chitim shochein. Can they attract the neighboring wheat? And sorim shochein, ma'u shivat lu sorim shochein, and the neighboring barley can attract the neighboring barley. And of course, this being the Yerushalmi, we don't answer the question. But this is what it looks like, right? Here you have the mushto. And then around the mushto you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have chita, saora, kusmin, shibola shual, and shifon. So do I say each one, so to speak, creates a halachic wedge and brings to it that which is adjacent to it and makes it chaya, makes the shiur of chiyuv challah or not, and we don't give an answer. Okay? Where you just made them part of the mush, so of course it doesn't join together. The question is where you left them like that. Okay, is that clear? The Gemara's going? Okay. Say the more further. Because shifting gears. All these grains are surim b'chodesh lifnei Pesach. They're also in a chodesh before Pesach. They may not be in before Pesach. Is tani lifnei Pesach. There's some who say before Pesach. These tani. There's some who learned lifnei Omer before the Omer. Madamar lifnei Pesach. He who said they're also before Pesach. Misayeh ale Rabbi Yochanan. That helps Rabbi Yochanan. Madamar lifnei Omer. That who says lifnei Omer Misayeh Chizkiah. That helps Rabbi Chizkiah. Dom Rabbi Shem Chizkiah. Well, let me give the background before we go further. Rabbi say, so when can you start eating chodesh? What? Tezayin, right? Tezayin when? And Bava, yeah. What? You might need korban omer. Let's say it was done that day in the afternoon. So what permits the chodesh? So machlokas. Rabbi Yochanan says that it is the korban. No, I think the opposite. Rabbi Yochanan says it's the day, and Chizkiah says it's the korban. So it's a mandamar lifnei Pesach means before the day, the second day of Pesach. So that means when the second day of Pesach arrives, automatically Chodesh is mutter, even prior to the korban, right? What?
When the second day arrives,
No, that we're going to learn during the day. We don't know yet, but we're going to learn that during the day. Okay? But the other mandamar who says lifnei Omer means it's also even during the day until you bring the actual sacrifice. Okay? And that's Machlokes Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says it goes by the day, and Chizkiah it goes by the sacrifice. Dom Rabbi Yochanan Chizkiah b'shas korban matir. When there's a korban, meaning when there's a Beis Hamikdash, the korban is what makes it permissible. Shlo b'shas korban, when there is no korban, b'zman hazeh,
Then Mordechai. I skipped, right? No, did I? I'm sorry, I lost my place. Let me read it over again. When there's a korban, ha-korban matir, the korban permits it. Shelo b'shas korban, there is no korban, ha-yom matir, the day permits it. Rabbi Yosi b'shem Chizkiah said, b'shas ha-korban matir, when there's a korban, the korban permits it. Moed Chizkiah shelo b'shas ha-korban, Chizkiah concedes when there is no korban, ha-yom matir, the day permits it. Rabbi Yochanan said, Bein b'shas ha-korban and shelo b'shas ha-korban, whether there is a korban or not, whether there's a Beis HaMikdash or not, hayom matir, the day itself allows chodesh, sunrise. Okay? Rabbi said, time of Rabbi Yochanan, logic Rabbi Yochanan is ad etzem hayom hazeh. Says to when is it also until this very day? Melamed shayom matir teaches us that the very day permits it. Is that true even when there is a korban, meaning when there is a Beis HaMikdash? No. It says until you bring the korban. It says more, wait a minute, is that true? Does it mean when you bring the korban? But it says till the day. So which is it? We're bringing the korban the day. Make up your mind. I'll make up my mind. Says the Gemara, Haketzad told me Ben Asayim, take from between these two droshes, Yoyim Zman Havor. That it's the time when you can bring a korban. Meaning, no, the day, not the night. I might have thought, had I not had, the pasuk says, until you're makriv the Yoyim, so I would have thought it's from the night before. I'm sorry, I would have, we thought it's the night before. Zouch have the pasuk seems to indicate that it's from the time bringing the korban, but I have the other pasuk say it's from the day, right? So how do I reconcile the two? It's from the time when I could bring a korban, meaning from the time the day starts. Okay? It's another raya, not the Brisker Rav al Torah. Brisker Rav al Torah brings down a legendary named Reb Chaim. Why didn't Avraham Avinu ask Hashem about the Akedah beforehand? He had two psukim contradicted itself. One would said, take him as a korban. One would say, keep Yitzchak Korel Chazera. The other says, take him a korban. So Avraham Avinu, after the Akedah, asked Hashem, what's going on? How could you contradict yourself? So the Brisker Rav asked the Kashi, he says, why didn't Avraham ask before the Akedah about the two psukim contradict himself? So he gives an answer, and he says, once a chassid came to Reb Chaim and said to him, you guys, you live misnagni, you ask too many kashas. Don't ask questions, just do the Ratzon Hashem and stop asking. So Reb Chaim allegedly said he was right in one respect. So you're not always allowed to ask questions. Says you can only ask questions only if you have a kosav ashlishli amachriya beinayim. Only if you have a third pasuk which resolves the contradiction. So now, when Avraham Avinu asked about the Akedah, only after there was a third pasuk, which is Al Tishlach Yadcha Al Anar. So then Avraham Avinu asked, I now have three psukim. Yetz came refragen. Now I can ask, what's the pshat? How do I reconcile all three psukim? But before, Avraham Avinu was allowed to ask. That's the Brisker Rav al Torah. So Rabbi Yosef Engel, he never saw the Brisker Rav al Torah, but he proves that it's not true. Many times it's Shash Neik Suvim Machishim Zeds, and we deal with them. We ask the question what to deal with them. And this is an example. Here we don't have Shloshuk Suvim, right? We have two Ksuvim. One, we resolve the question. Okay. Says on further. Mod Rabbi Yochanan be'eser shu'aser. Rabbi Yochanan sees, however, although the law of eating chodesh fell off in the morning, you're still not allowed to eat it. Either midrabanan or because it's a mitzvah saseh until the korban is sacrificed. Says the Gemara, Isura Ma'u, what's the Isur which still pertains to it? Rabbi Isura Dvar Torah. It's an aseh, mitzvah saseh. He brings down here, Ad aviyachem is korban elokechem means an aseh, refrain from eating until you bring the korban. Okay? Rabbi Yeina
Rabbi Yossi, Tavai, and Omer, and they both said, Yisur Midivrei Mitzvah, this is the right, so this is the Rabbanan. Rabbi Yossi said, Milan, the Rabbanan Messiah, Lon. The words of the rabbis are a proof unto all of us. So this is the Rabbanan. The Tzniya Tama, we learned over there, Ein Mevim, Menachos, to be Kurim, Minchas, Be'em, Akorim, Lomer. Not allowed to bring Menachos, grain co-sacrifices, ubikurim, first fruits, uminchas be'ema, and even the mincha which accompanies an animal, which is slaughtered as a korban, before the omer. If you did bring it before the omer, puzzle. Vam Rabbi Yeshua de Romia, and Rabbi Yeshua de Romia said, that Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yan, Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yan both said name Rabbi Yochanan. It's only if you bring these korbanos, these menachos on the 13th or 14th day of Nisan. The Chamisha Asar on the 15th day of Nisan. Hashisha Asar. But if you're on the 16th day in the morning of Arveh Hevi, you transgress, you brought a mincha, kosher, it's okay. If you're going to say that the prohibition before the Omer is brought is Doraisa, lo shanya. So what difference does it make? The 16th day before the Korban is just as author as the 13th, 14th, and 15th day. It must be telling this is the Rabbana, and that's why me the right, so it's good. Okay? Shisha, Yislo, sorry, he Chamisha, sorry, Shisha, sorry. However, baby should be baby should be bustle. Since it's not, we see that in the morning, according to Rabbi Yochanan, the Rabbanan. Vod minadon. Furthermore, we learn out that Rav held it Soim Rabbanan from the following. Dom Rabbi Zir said, Olei the bar must be Olei concerning the Rav should be Rebbe, Bir Rebbe. Instead of Bar Bey, it should be Rav Bir Rebbe. Bir Rebbe is always an honorific in the Shas. It means the great one. Okay? So the Rav Rebbe Daitun to Benoid Rabbi Chia the Rabbi Chia Rabba, the bar here is extraneous. Rav Rebbe's mindset was like the children of Rabbi Chia, the great, or Rabbi Chia the great. Why was that? Because Rav was their cousin. Rabbi Chia was his uncle, and Rav was their cousin, right? And they hold the same way. Who saw Kavason? He holds like them, meaning that it's only the Rabbanan, not the Raisa. Yeah, it's only the Rabbanan, not the Raisa. Because in Tamar Yisur the Tivrei Torah, if you're going to say this is the Raisa, Rav. Where am I? Rav Berebi, it should be again. Daite Rabbi Yechnanu. Then it should be that that Rabbi Zira should have said like that Rav holds like Rabbi Yochanan and not like the children of Rabbi Chia. Why is that? Because if you're going to say I forgot how this works. Give me a second. Okay. I missed an important fact which the Lev Yerushalmi brings down, which is that Rav Paskin that Bizman Hazeh, the day is matir. Bizman Beis HaMikdash, the Omer is matir. The Korban is matir. And on that, Rabbi Zira said that Rav holds like Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia's kids, meaning like Chizkiah. On that, the Gemara comments, right? The Gemara comments, it must be that Rav holds that the Isser until the time of the Omer is only the Rabbanan. Because if he held the Raisa like Rabbi Yochanan, so after Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, no. What? Even after Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, it should have still prohibited it. No, I'm still getting it wrong. Still getting it wrong.
This price that quotes the days, 13, 14, 15 days.
Yeah.
And then the 16th is
That's over. That's finished.
was that during the Beis Hamikdash on your Kaya? Or doesn't matter?
No, yeah, it's talking about when you could bring a mincha. So that obviously when the Beis Hamikdash existed. We're trying to prove actually in Rabbi Yochanan holds it's only this is the Rabbanan. How are you proving that? One second. So prove it like this. We're said that Rav holds like Chizkiah. Like Rabbi Yochanan, we said on top, Rabbi Yochanan holds both when there was a Beis HaMikdash and when there's no Beis HaMikdash, the day is matir. The day is matir midaraisa. We prove that he only holds that it's also until the Korban Omer D'Rabbanan, so far from one place, which said that if you're makriv any other korban, mincha, before the Korban Omer on the morning, but the evidence okay. That's one proof that, even according to Rabbi Yochanan. So it's one proof that Rabbi Yochanan held it's also, but only also mid'Rabbanan, not also mid'Oraisa. Because it was also mid'Oraisa, so any korban mincha sacrifice before the Omer should be possible even b'di'evet, not just l'chatchila, it should be possible b'di'evet. That's one way he proved Rabbi Yochanan holds his mid'Rabbanan. Now we're bringing another proof. Rav held that when the Beis Hamikdash existed, the Omer was Matir Chodesh, the Korban. Now it's the day. Rabbi Zira comes along and says that that's Rav going like his cousins, the sons of Rabbi Chia. Wait a second. If Rabbi Yochanan would hold that there's a mitzvah saseh midoraisa to wait when the Beis Hamikdash exists until the Omer is sacrificed, then why is Rav only going like Chizkiah? Let Rav also be going like Rabbi Yochanan. Because even Rabbi Yochanan concedes that there's a mitzvah saseh to wait, so Rav would hold the mitzvah saseh. It must be the Rabbi Yochanan there wasn't even a mitzvah saseh to wait. It was only a d'Rabbanan. And that's why the Gemara wants to say that Rav does not hold like Rabbi Yochanan, but rather like Chizkiah. That's why he answered when the Beis Hamikdash existed, Meikar Adin, until the Korban Omer was brought. That proves that Rabbi Yochanan, who said it was also until the Korban Omer was brought, was well, couldn't have held the Mizoraisa, because then we would have said Rav is even going like Rabbi Yochanan. Rather, he holds that it's that till the Korban Omer is brought, that Chodesh still also is only mid'Rabbanan and not mid'Oraisa. Any? Right. But I'm sure you just confuse matters even more for Dr. Snell, Mrs. Suga. Yeah. Let me go through it again. We know that Rav held it's also mid'Oraisa to during the Beis Hamikdash existed to eat Chodesh before the Korban Omer. Even though after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, it's mutter from sunrise.
Rabbi Zira said, "Oh, that's the sheet of Rav is going like his cousin, Chizkiah, the son of Rabbi Chia." Says Mara, from this we see clearly that Rabbi Yochanan must hold its holiness of the Rabbanan to eat Chodosh when there's a Beis Hamikdash until the Omer is sacrificed. Because otherwise, Chizkiah Rav and as holds saying the same as Rabbi Yochanan as well. Right? If Rabbi Yochanan holds this of Doraisa, so Rav and him can be in the same boat. If Rabbi Zira says that Rav is only like Chizkiah, not like Rabbi Yochanan, it must be Rabbi Yochanan holds whether it's a Beis Hamikdash. Granted, it's also, but it's only, and it's a Drabanan, and that's why Zira had to say, Rabbi Zira had to say that Rav is like his cousin Chizkiah holds this at the right, and now Rabbi Yochanan holds only this at the Drabanan. Okay, says more further. Vataninan, ask more. Now finally we get around to what the Bavli says. Wait a minute. What's in? Then we learn in Bavli. Mishachar, it's in the Mishnayos, but the Bavli discuss it. Mishachar Beis Hamikdash, Hiski Rabbi Yochanan made the takana that Ben Yochanan Zaka made takana. Sheyoyim Hanav Kuluah, so that the entire day of Tez Zayin should be also not allowed to eat until the next day, until Yud Zayin. Now here the Gra brings down what was one line later, Rabbi Yossi. Do you see Rabbi Yossi? It's at the top, mamish at the bottom of Gimel Base, top of down and out. Rabbi Yossi Berabun, Ibnei Rechokim. Why is that? Because of those who are far away. Because they won't know when the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt b'mheira b'yameinu. They won't know when the Korban Omer is brought or not brought, and they might say, the last year we ate earlier in the day. There's the whole thing the Bavli discusses over there. What the chashash is that when the Beis Hamikdash exists in the old days, they were allowed to eat from noontime. Now they might be afraid that when the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt. Well, we're afraid when the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt, they're also going to start eating from noontime. Even though we have to wait till the Korban Omer, and maybe that year when the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt, the Omer might come late. So therefore, we said because of them, we put it back to the end of the day. Now it says the Gemara, be that as it may, going back in line now. If you're going to say it's usher until the Omer Doraisa Nicha, then I understand why now we can extend it and say now there is no Beis Hamikdash this whole day. But in Tema Yisur Devrei, we're going to say till the Omer itself is only the Rabbanan, not a Doraisa. Yesh Takona Achar Takona, or make it Takona, Hana Takona to Rabbanan. You say me Doraisa, it's already moved to the beginning of the day. Me Rabbanan, you want to wait till Korban Omer. Now we're going to make it say when there is no Beis Hamikdash, say till the end of the day. That's intolerable. Right? So it's a kasha. How can Rabbi Yochanan say it's only the Rabbanan? And he had explained the Rabbi Yochanan Zakeyu answered until the end of the day. How can you get away with that? So it says the Gemara, Rabbi Yerushalmi Challah, Rabbi Chia said, the Gemara doesn't answer the question. The Gemara doesn't answer it. At least I don't think so. Yeah, Gemara will answer later on. The Rabbi Yerushalmi says.
Here is still an Eretz Yisrael.
Right? No, it can even be chutzah. It's both. People who don't hear when the korban is sacrificed, they'll just assume it was done by noontime.
I'm trying to bring right for Ramaran. It says that it's a field.
Oh, that's what you meant. Yeah, so it's not a riot because this even rechok in Eretz Yisrael.
No, okay, but if it's Chobra,
then it would be a riot, right? But it's not, right. Oh yeah, we don't know. Rabbi Yerushalmi Rabbi Chia said, "Bein b'shas korban shlo b'shas korban hayom matir." Again, all this is not like the body because the body comes to conclusion until the end of the day. It's also the Raisa B'zmanaseh. The Bavli essentially never even entertains that the day should be matir. It's either the korban or nothing, right? But dismissive in short shrift. But here again, Rabbi Yerushalmi Rabbi Chia said, "Bein b'shas korban shlo b'shas korban hayom matir." The day permits it.
Ravuna said, Mastisa the Chizkiah Pligi Love, the Brisa of Chizkiah argues on this, because it says that it says until this very day, Malamet Shematir teaches today is Matir. Yochav, il B'shas Korban, is it even true when there's a Korban? No. Tam Lomar Aviachem is Korban Elokechem. Only when you bring the Korban. So the Korban is what's Matir. Ask the Gemara, again, as in we learn, Bishchar Beis Hari, the Shorts Beis Hari was destroyed. Hiskin Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Yochanan ben Zakkai made a takona, Sheyeh Yoim Onev Kulu, that the entire day is Osir. So how do you make such a takona if it's a Gzeira l'Gzeira? Right, that even after the Korban is a Gzeira, they should make another Gzeira? Rabbi Yehuda said, Itatabs, I asked this kasha, Kum Rabbi Yehuda in front of Rabbi Yirmiyah, Vamra, he said, in Yizbor, should be Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. To Rabbi Yehuda, if Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai goes to Rabbi Yehuda, to Rabbi Yehuda Amar, V'allah minat Torah, the Rabbi Yehuda said that Midaraisa, it's also the entire day, then Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai works out. That's the truth, that's what the Bavli says. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai holds that Midaraisa, the whole day is also unless there's a Korban. If there's a Korban, it's Matir early. If there's no Korban, it's the end of the day. So therefore, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai really restores the Doraisa, and he argues on our entire Gemara. Everybody in our Gemara till now held it's the day which is Matir. Maybe there's Nasei till the Korban, but probably it's only the Rabbanon. But it's for sure not the end of the day. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai holds it's the end of the day, and there's a special day when there's a Korban, and it's even earlier in the day. So that's the cup is half full, not half full, not half empty. You don't get the idea. So Tamon says Gemara out of left field. Tamon over there in Bavel. Chashin l'tzomer Rabba Trein Yomi. They kept 2 days Yom Kippur. 2 days Yom Kippur. Why? Because the same reason. It's really the same reason. That's why it's brought down here. Because we're afraid. Why do we make the whole day of Yom Hanef Kulu Asur? Why we say they are not allowed to eat a chodesh b'zman hazel till nightfall? Because maybe the base mitzvah, when the base is rebuilt, base is going to be late, not as diligent, and they're not going to bring it at noontime like they used to. It might happen later in the day. So therefore, we asked it the whole day in chodesh, right? That's how was always said. So too in Bava, they're afraid maybe base wouldn't be diligent in notifying them about the calendar, and really Yom Kippur was a day later, not a day or a day earlier, not a day later. So therefore they kept 2 days Yom Kippur. Chizis said, Lo matem machnisim atzmechem lemisape kazeh hamerubeh. Why you put yourself into this great suffix? This great danger means here, right? Chazok shem beisim misatzin. Beisim is not lazy. They would send out messengers immediately. You'd find out what the day was.
You knew when Rosh Hashanah?
No, you didn't know what Rosh Hashanah was. No, they were keeping it 2 days Misafik Rosh Hashanah also.
But they would know already.
How? This is talking about days in the Mekadosh Al Pi Re'iyah, so they didn't know. Okay? Says Gemara, Avui, it should be Avui. Avui the Shmuel Bar Yitzchak, the father of Shmuel Yitzchak, Chashak Armei, nonetheless he was machber upon himself. B'tzam Trein Yoimin, and he fasted 2 days. Ifsi Krucha, his intestines ruptured, V'domach, and he died. So the moral of the story is, don't fast 2 days. Okay? Let's see if we can get the down on the base quickly. Major Girsa cases here. Girsa changes. Sorry. It should be as it says here. If the grain took root before the Omer Matir, the Omer is Matir them. Nevertheless, the next line, which is not written in your Gemara, should be Vasuri Milikso Lifne Omer. You're not allowed to harvest them before the Omer. You're not allowed to harvest any chodesh before the Omer is sacrificed. Now, what does it mean? Before the Omer is sacrificed? Rabbi Yehuda no. Rabbi Yehuda here also it's a typo. It should be Koidem Liktsira. You're not allowed to harvest has to take root before the Omer is harvested, which is the night before. Rabbi Yossi Amar Kodem Lava. Doesn't have to take root before you harvest the Korban Omer, but rather before you bring it, which is the next day. Okay, so it's a difference of about 18 hours. Okay, Rabbi says Hava materes liktsi lava. Bringing the korban omer allows you to bring korbanos from. Right, it's a typo. Should be Hava. Hava materes lava. Bringing the korban omer allows you to bring other korbanos from Chodesh. Kitsira, harvesting materes allows you to harvest the Chodesh. Rabbi Yisrael said here too is another typo. Hava materes hava ktsira. Bringing the korban omer allows you to bring other korbanos and also to harvest, but you can't harvest beforehand. Lefum kain, therefore Rabbi Yossi chavi ba. Why? Therefore, Rabbi Yossi said about this to explain. He said, explain this from sheet. He said, "Katzal Rabbim." It can't be that once you harvested the korban omer, you can be everybody else can harvest. Because what happens if you Katzal Rabbim, you harvest the korban omer for the matzahs, for the Beit Hamikdash, for nitma, and then it became tummy afterwards. So all the people who harvested till now did it also. No, it's 10 o'clock in the night you harvested your korban omer. Then everybody started harvesting. 12 o'clock your omer became tamei. You have to harvest over again. But all the people who harvested at 11 o'clock, did they all make an isser? So therefore he says you're not allowed to harvest anything for chulin until after the korban omer the next day. Rabbi Yochanan says before Ktsira, and Rabbi Yossi Kodem Lava. Again, this is going back to when the Hashrosh has to take place, when the taking root has to take place. Rabbi Yochanan said before harvesting, but Rabbi Yochanan said before bringing. Rabbi Yochanan Milsa the Khanim Silei. We will see tomorrow. Rabbi Yochanan will bring a raya to a shita that it's before harvesting. Okay, a few rough spots, but.